get right into it then. You guys want to build a live dashboard. So it's exactly what we'll be doing. We're going to go through, and like everyone was mentioning before, this week is really a culmination of so many things like creating the proposals, learning how to use Claude for projects, and then combining that together with your business to give it enough context so that you can actually capture your business in a format that AI can read, and then you can connect it to the tools that you already use every day. So let's get right into it. So we're going to start with describing your business systems, where you're going to store your operations data, then how we can actually connect that using AI, and then lastly, how we're going to expand that and customize for your specific needs. Every contracting business is going to be different in some way. And so we just want to make sure that we teach you the framework and not just a one-off example. So just a little question to get you guys going. How are you currently using AI in your operations? If you guys have, I guess on that third question there, have you guys built anything with Claude that your team uses every day?
Not every day, but every week or so.
Yeah. What have you built, Jake?
A sales dashboard for my Tequila company. Keep
Cool.
track of sales, accounts, outreach, and whatnot.
Nice. How did your team kind of receive that at first? Was there any like iteration you had to show them, or what kind of helped you get that to land?
So you just build it piece by piece. You hear back what they want to see, and then you just build it in. Yeah, that's really it. Just keep building off of the base that I started with, and then go from there. Get feedback from shareholders.
Nice. And for you to start, did you have like an idea of like an Excel sheet that you had to work off of, or was it blank slate? You just had data and you had to make a dashboard.
Blank slate. I had an export from our importer, and kind of had all these fields, and then from that, they have like pre-built charts and whatnot, but laying it out in a different way that's more applicable to how we use it is more valuable than how we had it on their platform.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that's exactly what AI is there for, to give you the actual dashboards that you need. So it's really cool that you managed to get something that's working weekly, right? And I'm sure that adds a lot of value to the company to see exactly what they need. So that's exactly what this is really about. It's understanding the importance of the data, and making sure that's in one place, whether that's a dashboard, whether that's just tables with columns, and making sure that you can access it quickly. So in some of these other questions, it's like, how long do you think it would take to find, the profitability for all your current and past projects? Does anyone here have an answer? Like maybe under a minute? Um, what do you think, Jake?
For what?
How long would it take you to find profitability for all your current and past projects?
Not too long, because we kind of track that all the time. It's kind of
Mhm.
built into the dashboard, so we already know each account. Is it profitable? Is it not? And all the expenses related to that.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're going to be going through. Because if you ever tried asking a question and you didn't get what you were looking for, it didn't fail because the AI was bad, but it might have failed because it was missing the information that it needed to answer well. Because every result that you get from Claude came from giving it context first. That's what we've been talking about since week one. Context matters. Otherwise, it's that 51st dates example again, that it just forgets and it has to create something new from the get-go. So tonight is really about making that permanent. It's giving that home to the data like a dashboard that you can then pull from, get insights from, and build on top of that. So contractors winning with AI, they're not better at prompting. They've just captured their business, people, jobs, and processes in a format that any AI tool can read, whether that's Claude, whether that's ChatGPT, whether that's Gemini. But it's really just a defined document with the systems that can provide that initial context needed. So that leads into step one of what we're going to be building tonight. And it all starts with describing your business systems. So I wanted to do this by showing an example of a business we just created this demo called Redline Mechanical. And so I can open this here with you guys. And this can kind of be a framework that if you want to apply to your own business, you can go through and understand this to then create this on your own afterwards. But really, all this is laying out is the business, what it is. Redline Mechanical, 6-person HVAC company, roughly 1.2 million in sales and revenue. And the owner, Dave, runs the business day to day with a foreman named Mike, who manages the crew on site. A little bit about the people, what work they do. So this is kind of capturing your processes, your workflows, your SOPs, going from once a job is sold until when it's actually scheduled, when the crew does the work, and then when the job is finished. So full end-to-end workflow. Then how the money is calculated through contract value, labor cost, material cost, and gross profit, your standards. And then this can also be added on to be broken out maybe into cost codes that you get more granular with the actual tracking that you do. And then when is a job healthy? Then problems that you might face, which might be when time tracking is on paper, maybe material costs are not tied currently to jobs, maybe there's no visibility currently, there's no scheduling, client updates take too long. So map every friction in your process. And then the really big thing that we like to focus on at Scelta is what good looks like. We call that the end state, which is if the system worked perfectly, this is what Dave, the owner, would have, which is every Monday morning a summary, a way for the crew to log their hours, material costs, scheduling, and the ability to generate client updates. Now, based on everything above, here's what AI is able to create, which is these 5 really core tables, which are projects, employees, timesheets, expenses, time off. And again, this can be expanded to include, scheduling, cost codes specific to a project, and many other things. And what's cool is that these tables by themselves, they don't really mean anything unless they're connected. So an example of that would be timesheets always connect to projects, but timesheets always connect to employees. And then employees are connected to their labor rate. And then when an employee submits an expense, that should go into a project. When an employee submits a timesheet, that should log against his hourly rate or their hourly rate against the project and get a total labor cost. So those connections is what we want to make sure is set up so that when the data is input, that is captured and the sum gets added up so that the AI always has the real live data. So I know this may be a lot of talking, so I want to do an actual live demo with you guys here through the system. So this is how we're going to store the operations data. So all I did is go here into Claude. And there's this really good tool that I'm not sure if you guys have used before, but it's called Notion. And really all Notion is a place to create pages, files, kind of like a Google Doc. But then what's cool is that within that Google Doc, I can create something like Redline Mechanical. And then I can create these things called tables. And then these tables are just databases. And if you think of these databases as just sheets within a spreadsheet, that's really all it is, a massive spreadsheet that you can then create a bunch of tables inside. And the reason I chose this is because it connects really well with Claude. So if you guys have played around with Claude, you may notice that when you click the plus button, you have this little thing called connectors. I think I'm not sharing this screen. You guys just see this slide, right?
Yeah, we're still on the slide.
There you go. So yeah, I was saying Notion's here on the right side. Um, you can create pages, and then within these pages, you can create maybe tables. So database is here, and then it would be just like a regular database. Database, and then you can add columns to it and track things. So essentially, this connector allows us to connect here directly to Notion. So we could read and see this entire page and then answer using things that from this database. So what I did is I took this example we went through. I created a Claude project. Using the desktop app, we have the options to do chat and then Cowork. I went into Cowork and I created a project there. Now, what's really good about Cowork is that I can read files from your own computer's folder or maybe even a Google Drive if you have that connected to your file storage system. And then it can actually create files and put them right in the folder instead of you having to create them through the chat, download it, and then re-upload it. And then another really cool thing about it is it can create real live dashboards. So Claude Cowork is really about working on data that you want to interact with. And so that's why I chose this. And then paired with the Notion connector, it gives you access to that context data. So what that looks like is we would go create a new connector. So we would add a connector, and then we'd search for Notion. And then right now mine is configured. So you would just have to create an account, configure your Notion. It would just prompt you to sign in, and you would have Notion connected. So as soon as you do that, you can take the document that we just created for Redline, and I have that in a folder in my computer. And I have a few documents that I created here. But if you guys see just on this little drop down, I created a system description, which is what we were looking at here. And then from this, it actually created this entire page for me with the projects, timesheets, employees, expenses, and time off that we just saw from the business description. Now, if I look into each one of these pages, I'll see that the project has the actual hours, budgeted hours, has the client tied to it, contract value, and date. And then you can have the connections. So expenses, it can actually tie back to all the expenses against that project, calculate the gross profit, labor cost. So that would also sum up all the timesheets and their costs into this. So just creating a regular database here. And we did that across these 5 tables. So now that we have this, we've basically laid down our data into one place that we can use and connect AI with. Now, Notion is also better than Google Sheets because it can actually write to something. So if I say, hey, I just got a new client, add that as a project, and here's the scope, here's the budget, here's what I expect to make on it, and it can automatically do that straight from a Claude chat. And you can also set up even a CRM here. We moved all of our CRM outside of Monday into Notion for that reason. We wanted just the control to be a Claude chat. And so if we just say, hey, we just had a meeting with them, create a client profile, add this project to them, here's how much we expect the contract to be, log this activity, we can customize on the go and make sure that our interface is always a Claude chat. So if you really wanted, you could stop here, capture all your data, and then just use Claude to input data. But what's really valuable is that the data is constantly being updated. And on site, you want to make sure that you give the guys a way to input this data, whether it's timesheets, whether it's expenses, whether it's daily logs. That's what's going to feed the machine and help you to run the business without having to check on it every single day. Everything makes sense so far? Am I going too fast? Yeah, cool. So I'll just start by showing you guys what it looks like to ask some questions. There's two types of questions here. So if you guys check it out here, I already asked some questions. I said, how much has labor cost us on the LaSalle so far since the kickoff? So you see here, it loaded a tool. So it looked for the LaSalle project. Let me search Notion. Okay, I searched Notion. Cool, I found it. Found the labor cost field. So it saw that it's computed. So it's like, oh, let me actually find the timesheets to tally everything up. And then since there was only one timesheet logged to that, it was able to find it, compare against the employee's labor rate, and then give you a total labor count. Now, it didn't just stop there. It found some other things. So a couple of notes worth flagging. Mike also has a timesheet entitled Mike LaSalle, but it's linked to a different project. Maybe they actually logged it against a separate one and it got messed up, something changed. It's cool because it can find those discrepancies and flag it for you so you can make a decision. And the project notes just say kicked off equipment order, so it's early days and timesheets may still be coming in. So against your 240 budgeted hours, you've only burned 6 so far. And if Mike's timesheet should be linked to this job, your true labor cost would be 456. So it gives you some more insights into that. And you can continue asking questions. You could even say, oh, that actually, Mike's timesheet should be linked to LaSalle. Let's change that project back into it. And I can do that with you guys right now. So change Mike's timesheet entry and correct it to the LaSalle project. So you wouldn't even really need to go back into Notion and to do it. And while that's working, I can show you some other questions that's more general across all projects that I just asked here. What's our gross profit margin across all active jobs? And it's able to pull all the jobs, pulls all the data. And really, this is just another way to show the data that's already in Notion. This could be turned into a dashboard. This could be turned into a report, PDF that gets sent to you. And also some insights if you want to help it understand what the data actually means or make sense of a lot of numbers. If depending on what metrics you guys track for projects, this could be a good way to analyze trends, forecasting, help with estimating, could even create invoices based on projects, based on milestones. So really it's whatever fits your business need. But as long as the data is there, Claude can do anything with it. And now we go back here, we ask it to update, we make sure that we only allow for this task, and then that Notion page will get updated right away. And if we see here, it's that Mike LaSalle, and the project linked to LaSalle now. So now correctly linked, so that's all good. That's another update that can happen as well. And this can also be set up for notifications. If you guys want every day something to scan all timesheets and give you a notification. Hey, here's where we see notifications maybe have been messed up or hours don't look right, or just a general report of where everyone's at with timesheets for today. This can also be something that flags a system for that. Now, if we go a step further, kind of Jake's example of taking data and then creating a dashboard, you could do that directly from Claude Cowork because of that thing called live artifacts that I just talked to you guys about. So what that looks like is you're just going to ask it to create a live dashboard for you. So if I go back to my chat here, I just asked it, think through with me to create an owner dashboard with the most important info, highlighting progress, jobs, profitability, pulling from my Notion database. So I always like to ask Claude to think through with me a task because it kind of reasons a little bit, maybe asks some clarifying questions and doesn't just get straight to work. So it did that at the projects, and then it asked to create this artifact. And here's what it looks like. So if you see, it might kind of look like, some of the softwares that you would have a project with. And this is pretty much just from a single sentence asking me to show something. This isn't me asking about any specific KPIs, asking about any specific graphs or anything. So this is like the most basic prompts, most vague prompts can get you visuals going in. And what's cool is that this is updated in real time. If I click refresh here, It'll take a little bit, but then it'll load back all the records. Now, it's worth pointing out that using Notion specifically and live artifacts, it's really fast to get started, but these updates are kind of what takes the longest time. So sometimes it can take 2 minutes for a little bit of data. With a lot more data, it'll take even longer. So that's kind of the drawback of using a system like this. But for dashboards that you just need to see once a week, it's not the worst load time. But if it's something that you need to see every day, that's kind of when you would go, a step further with the custom interface. So I built this to show you guys what would be the next step over with this custom interface would be maybe something like this. That this is still pulling from Notion, the same projects, but in a much faster way that can actually, show everything, loads it right away. Shows you the overview. You can do a map. Maybe you wanted to show where are my projects located, see the projects like this, click to log time right away. And then this interface, maybe you would be able to share with your team. And then this is how they actually input data into the system. So a lot more doors open as soon as you go the route of creating custom interfaces, but your data remains the same. So another really cool thing is actually creating these client updates. And we do this a lot with the work that we do because we input a lot of it into Notion as tasks. We comment on what happened with that task. We have our own daily logs of what we did for that day. And at the end of the week, if we need to update a client on something that was just built, we just ask Notion, hey, search through my logs for this week. What did we do? What did the other team members work on? And then create me a draft email to send. And we added a connector for Gmail as well. So it creates a draft straight into our inbox. All we have to do is review it, and then we're good to send it off. So that's how we kind of sped up that process of looking back, trying to remember what we did, of just let's always record it, make sure it's the least amount of friction to input data into the system. And then from there, Claude can do its magic. So just to show you guys, it does take a little bit to fetch this data. So I like Claude artifacts, but for some things, and I'm yet to explore another database simpler than Notion. If you guys ever find anything, feel free to post it in the school community. But for things like this, like asking a question, getting an answer, it's really, really, really useful. More like these questions. So, like we said, one screen, you can capture your whole week. And then now this part that has been kind of a game changer with Claude is that the reports can now come to you. Claude Cowork is really special because of this thing called scheduled tasks that you can go here and create scheduled tasks for this specific project. So if you want to say every Monday, give to me a report about all the timesheets, who worked what hours, and then let's say you wanted to add an integration with your accounting software, that it's going to create a draft to add the payroll for that week. So that means you don't have to go back, sift through, create a custom PDF format, and then toss it into your QuickBooks and manually type it in. That could all be done through Claude. And you can always add human in the loop review steps. You can ask it to just send you an email, send you just a notification of what it got, and you would need to approve it for it to go into your system. But that means that you're a lot less reactive and things are just coming to you and you're just hitting approve and it's good to go. And that's really where we see that AI shines the most, is that it does all the work that humans should really, they don't need to do. And then you can just review it, approve it, and then good to go. So I recommend, if you guys haven't yet, to test out the scheduled tasks and what you can automate out of your daily, weekly routine that could be done through these scheduled tasks. Yeah, Jake, go ahead.
One question with scheduled tasks, I know it uses up usage. So if you have like heavy daily tasks, for example, would it be possible to run them through Claude Code routines instead? Because I know sometimes you have like 25 that don't count towards your usage, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. I think routines, they're a little bit more scoped to code, like within like a code repository.
Mm.
What I've found that works really well with scheduled tasks is I try to really define what is the task. I know we did run into that issue where maybe we were scraping some websites, and that would take such a long time because we didn't really have instructions of do this, then do this, then do this, and then finish here, and prevent it from going on a loop. So what really helps as well is using Haiku. Um, Even instead of Sonnet or Opus, it's the fastest and most efficient model that they have for tasks that don't require too much reasoning. If it's really like pulling data, analyzing data, sending a notification, that's something that doesn't need heavier models with. So that's one way that you can decrease the token usage as well.
Sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, that's scheduled tasks. That's just one way to do it as well. There's other platforms that you can set up these scheduled tasks, but having it straight from Claude, I found that has been really a game changer for us as well. And like we showed you, it's the same context. You can just have better front doors, whether that's a form in Notion that I. So if you guys want to test Notion for anything that you use and you need to do data input, they offer forms that you can just embed right away. So in this case, it would be to submit timesheets. You would be able to just create a view that's a form, and then here's what people would see when they submit a timesheet, which is just the date. You would select today, the project, let's say it's Riverside, hours, say 8 hours, and then daily log. I did some work. And then that's it. And then since I'm a user within this, it automatically submits my response here. So thank you. Submit it here. And then I just see here, new submission. I did some work. So obviously you need to set up some things to track the employee, track their hourly rate, hours here, and then the labor costs. But that it's as easy as that to get set up with the data input. And now the custom interface, we can obviously make that easier. We can create other forms. You can create more interactive, add photos and things like that. So obviously with everything and based on our talk last week, we want to make sure we address safety and limitations of the current system. Because right now, probably the biggest thing would be access controls. We want to make sure that the database hides information that you don't want shared with everyone in the company. And what you saw there, all the financials, if you just gave another employee the same connection, they would be able to actually read all the financial information, see all the hourly rates, calculate the profitability. And that's just a limitation that Notion has. It doesn't provide a role-based access, which is separating, admins from employees. Again, Notion forms are also not production. Maybe they can be bypassed. Maybe they don't work right away. Maybe they can't capture the employee the best way. And they don't actually notify you if something goes wrong. Someone had a problem submitting it. It might not work the greatest. Again, also for Claude, if you're ever doing any insights, it doesn't audit the answers explicitly. It can only read what is within the tables, but if there's something wrong about it, it's going to confidently say that it's wrong because it assumes that all the data there is truthful. So it's always up to us to review it and to make sure that the data it's outputting is correct. So if Claude gives us, a profitability report, it's up to us to go back, make sure that all the numbers are adding up, ask it how it is adding up these hours, because it may have missed some things that should be there. And then also data privacy. The biggest thing that I want to reiterate is making sure that if you are using Claude, make sure to opt out of all the training data, especially if you're uploading financials. And then I would say that's when you're safe to start uploading something there. Before that, I would never upload any financials, any passwords, anything that is supposed to be secretive or confidential. I would avoid until you've actually opted out of the training data. And you can always go back to Anthony's talk of last week to review any more things with AI safety. And then one other thing I wanted to mention in terms of resources is Anthropic has their own proprietary courses called anthropic.skilljar.com that I really recommend you guys taking a look at. That goes through some more concepts on Claude. And then this one on Claude Cowork, mentioning, since we're talking about Claude Cowork today, has some really good concepts of what to use it for, why to use it, when to use it. Cool. So I guess if you guys have been following now, you may be thinking where you can apply this for your business. And obviously, you might have the same five tables, but then it's about expanding. You kind of branch out into your specific niches throughout the construction world. And so, how do you actually expand and how do you actually customize it for your needs? So to expand, I would say the easiest way is probably connecting to outside tools. You guys probably have a CRM here, accounting software here, maybe it's an ERP in Procore. So there's a lot of things that may be happening. Even connections like Gmail, Google Drive, Calendar, you see here, and Notion. You can keep adding connectors and give it more tools to access with the outside world. And that's how you can expand the knowledge and what your system can do through, a single chat interface. So expansion is probably the easiest part right now in terms of connections. To customize it, I would say you would probably have to go through the same process of describing what workflow you're wanting to integrate. So let's say we wanted to add a scheduling workflow where we want to track where each person is going to be scheduled for the next 2 weeks at a time. We would probably work through the how we schedule people, what we look for, what rules we should set, maybe don't schedule people who have time off in that same date. So when you say, hey, I have 3 jobs coming up, who should I schedule for this time? Maybe you want to compare it also with previous jobs that they were on. So just want to describe as much about your process as possible in order for the AI to understand how to structure the table and how to structure the columns within that table. As soon as it captures that, you can actually input it right back in the chat and get it to create new tables for you in Notion. And then from there, you just continuously iterate with the same process in mind. And then you can do that with cost codes, change orders, managing drawings. So there's a lot that you can customize there. Now, that brings us to what Scelta does. And I think I wanted to just touch on this a little bit because everything that you just see here is something that Scelta does. We really come in to map, format, and build. First, we map, which we do that same process that we did for Redline, which is understanding what your business is, how it works, what are the friction points, where can we come in? Most importantly, what does success look like? What does that end state look like of where the company wants to be in? And what does done look like for a workflow? Then we format, we make sure that's all written down, that there's a context, that this is properly documented. And then we don't just leave as most consulting firms would just give you a deck. We go in and we implement it with you. We test it, we provide support, maintenance, and we make sure it's working from the time that we hand it off. And then we repeat. We continue that cycle until your business runs without friction, until you have considered that that is what success looks like for my company, and we reach the end state. So that's kind of the two options and the two dimensions that you guys have been seeing with school, which is the do it yourself and then the done for you. And the do it yourself is the keep coming on Tuesdays, because the more you guys keep coming, the more you'll be able to build this and iterate and continue building up this knowledge of these AI systems. With the weekly live sessions, the templates, like the template we'll provide today, and then the community access. There's so much gold in the AI wins, what other people are doing. Now, that does take time, takes effort, but the resources are all here, and we're never going to stop outputting this information. But that also is the other side of the coin. That's the done for you. We start by sitting down, doing a discovery session, understanding your business systems, mapping your context, and actually building that system. And then we stay with you. So we always provide ongoing support, and it's worth the outcomes without having to just figure out alone. So if you guys wanted, we can drop the link here to, if you want to book a 30-minute call, love to have you and understand a little bit more about your specific business needs and to kind of walk through exactly what we just did here today. So I think we'll just leave that in the chat if anyone wants to take a look at that. But that is the end of the dashboard. Do you guys have any questions? think Ave just dropped here. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess to the audience, you guys have anything you want me to go through again? Is there anything that that would be useful to reiterate? Yeah, really, the simplest place might be Google Sheets, somewhere that you guys probably are very familiar with. Google Sheets and Excel, they have native native Claude support. And so that would probably be the easiest way to start. The only drawback to that is that you can't actually update any information from Claude into Google Sheets or Excel. You can only read from it and get updates. But you can always bypass that by, creating Google Forms or creating forms that put it into Excel and then just read that data to build these dashboards. Another example would be downloading this tool called Obsidian. And that one is a little different. It's more like a folder system. And what you could do with that is just files that live inside a computer that you could just write things in, and it'll pull up as more of a documentation. Um, so it can just, it's called Obsidian. And if you guys see it like this, it's just notes, and you can open them and just start typing straight into it. But this is more towards context of understanding your business and providing Claude with the information about how your business works. But in terms of storing the data, I would say Notion is probably your safest bet right now.
No worries, Tony. Appreciate you hopping in. It's we'll post everything to school as well if you want to listen back. This one was about building your own dashboard. Oh,
Oh,
Jennifer. Okay, got it. You're like famous authors who have different names. To yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I had another question. I can't remember if you said it or not, but like the difference between doing it through Cowork and having local files versus just doing everything kind of online. Kind of what the benefit is for like the artifacts and your dashboard and how that works.
yeah. So the cool thing about Cowork is that it can actually, one, you have the scheduled tasks. So you can't do that through regular chats. You have to do it through Cowork. And then also you have the ability to write files to that folder instead of having to download it and then put it back in. And it actually can use your computer a lot better through Cowork. So if you have things that require, a manual click through your computer, Claude Cowork could do that if you have a process that requires that step by step. Um, on a chat, you wouldn't be able to also create a live artifact. It would be a static HTML. So it would kind of be like a PDF. But with Cowork, you could create something that you could interact with, and that could update in real time, as we saw with the Notion page.
You've worked with a lot of contractors and implementing technology. Um, a lot of like owners are like doing it themselves and like building things for themselves and probably working independently before they're thinking of rolling it out to the team. I know some people in the chat who are like ahead of the game and building stuff that their team is using. Um, but in your experience, like, do you have any recommendations on kind of the best way to start rolling out tech to the team, and what makes the difference between like when it works versus when it doesn't really get adopted?
Yeah, the easiest way is always doing it in small batches of people. So just getting a pilot group of people who you know are going to be your champions through that they are usually a little bit more tech savvy, and you want to kind of get their feedback on how they would use it on day to day. So usually when we've rolled out to, hundreds, 150 person company or an 80-person company, we would pick maybe 4 or 5 people across the two divisions, that there were service people and construction. In that case, it would just be service. And then we would use it, for a week, 2 weeks straight, and get their feedback on it. The biggest thing that made it stick was those initial impressions that they had of how something should work. We couldn't ever push through something and just say, "Oh, it should work like that. Just get used to it." I think that's probably the biggest drawback that someone will have into using a software. It's like we needed to take that feedback and actually construct a better product out of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have liked using it. It needed to genuinely save them time. Otherwise, it would always become a hassle, when you have to do something, it's going to take a long time. So whether that was clocking in, that was a process that we were always continuously asking ourselves too, is like, can we make that better as well? So that's probably the biggest thing for contractors, is it needs to be as simple as possible, as straightforward, direct, and needs to be continuously improved.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I appreciate you kind of unpacking that in those couple of questions.
Nice. Jake?
You just mentioned time tracking. I'm wondering if there's a way where they don't need to do anything at all. They just show up to the job site, and based off location specifically of their phone, it automatically logs that they're there and clocks them in. Do you
Yeah.
think that's a possibility to automate that even more?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So that would definitely require a custom interface. And if you guys have used Claude on your desktop, you may see this other tab on Claude Code, which you mentioned before. Um, if you take that and create a custom interface, connect to Notion, you would then need to add a custom integration to, let's say, Google, the Google API that can take your phone's location and then set up a trigger when you're within this geographical bound to then, send a notification that, hey, I started my shift here, and then it can send something to Notion and update that, or whatever database you're using. So yeah, that's definitely really big possibility. I know we know some pretty big companies. If you guys know Construction Clock, I think that's the company, right, Dave? Yeah. So Construction Clock, that's like their whole business, but it's cool because you can actually build that yourself right now, with Claude Code and a Notion database. Yeah, I find that a lot of that seems to be one of the biggest friction points, is guys getting their hours in right. I think across all contractors, this has probably been like the biggest and the most common friction point of like, my guys just need to be there at the right time, or the location that they put is wrong, or time sheets has always been the biggest pain point.
How have you helped?
I wonder.
Oh, go ahead, Jake. Sorry, dude.
I wonder if that could also be done with like Apple shortcuts. If you have like a custom trigger, because I know you could have set reminders based off location. So like I've one when I go to the mall to check the Rogers store for whatever. I wonder if that could be another trigger potentially.
Yeah, yeah, that's an awesome point. And 1,000%. The only thing I would need to check is, whether the APIs are configured there. And then what I would think about implementing tools, I always think like, how easy is it to roll this out across everyone that would need to use it. So would everyone be on Apple? Would some people be on Android? And how would we account for those two? Is what I would think if I were to implement this within a company. So having it on a browser seems to be kind of the easiest standard way to standardize that. But if it's something that you need to set up, for two people and they're both on an iPhone, I don't see why not. Apple shortcut would be the easiest way to get this stuff done. Is that something that your company is looking at, or you're looking to implement for them?
No, no, just an idea.
Cool. Yeah, well, that's really interesting. It's actually a really good trick. As soon as you go into the mall, it's check it. That kind of unlocks my brain to start doing some automations on my personal life too.
Because I know Claude can connect to your phone, and like you could text it. So like whenever you receive a text that says /Claude, it talks to the Claude app and can trigger things.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you've heard of OpenClaw before.
I have never messed around with it though.
It's honestly like what you just described there. You essentially have a texting platform, and then this server, people usually set it up in like whole different computers in order to have access to, this computer, and it can do anything with it. But Claude could essentially do the same thing that you've connected to. So that's, yeah, I assume too, like you could say, as soon as you set that up, Claude could go then get that location, send it to Notion, and then your timesheet entry is completely automated like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is if so. Normally at the end of calls, we ask for AI wins. I know there's a lot of people who are like repeat people who have come back and have already asked. So it's cool to have John L taking the lead today because he has an incredible depth of knowledge about building tools and workflows and systems using AI. So I almost want to spin it to be like, is there anything you guys are working on this week, or you're currently in progress with that you're kind of struggling with? Because John would be a really good soundboard to be able to dissect the issues you might be having in building something with AI, to see if he can help you get over any hurdles in anything new that you're building. So if there's anything like that, now's a good time to ask for sure.
I guess I'll go. One question for you is, so this week I've been building a CRM skill so that you could say, blah, 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 put the command CRM, process this email or this note from a meeting I've had into the CRM. Then it finds the lead, puts in the details, any action items, tasks required from that. But it seems to be messing things up. So would you recommend shortening like the skill, or like splitting it up into two separate skills? Or like how well defined does a single skill need to be for it to work, say 99% of the time?
Right. What do you see that the issues are when you're inputting it? It's missing some things you mentioned?
Yeah, it like either double entry, or it just doesn't do the same thing over and over again, which we would need it to do. So I wonder if that's because it's the skill's too long, so it gets confused. It might not be the right model. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. AI systems, it's really interesting because they're non-deterministic, right? So really with the same prompt, you could get two different outputs. And so how that is able to be solved is through usually guardrails. I would say if you take some of the issues that you're having, let's say it's double entry, it's missing certain fields, or it's not inputting it exactly, or not capturing the right things you wanted from a meeting or from an email, I would actually take these concerns, take your current skill, and paste it back into Claude again and say, how can I actually refine this to make sure that I get the same output every time? And using that same methodology of think through with me for this? What are the main things that are missing from this skill? Whether that's a safety guideline that's like, never do this, and making sure that you have that negative prompt so that it doesn't even try to get to that area, and then kind of guiding it through. Verify always the output after this. If it looks like this, then mark it as successful. If it's not like this, retry it. Never output something that's in this format. And then usually for your skill, do you have accompanying files like a template of what that should look like, of what the entry should look like, or is it just the skill description of what it should do?
We have like a few different ways someone could ask to call the CRM. So whether it's from like a personal meeting or a meeting note, an email, or just generic notes, we kind of have that built into the skill, but nothing solid.
I see. Because that could be like usually on a skill, you have a few different files, like a template example of what the output should be from that skill. You have certain scripts that could be called, and that'll be something when you're creating like a PDF report, and then that script would make sure that it always runs the same script to create that PDF report. And so this would be good to check if your skill has that accompanying file to make sure that the template of what a successful entry looks like, then it could always use that as something to double check against and do a little last entry check.
Okay, so like past part of the iterative approach would be if it spits out something that I really, really like, save that, feed it back in and say, this is good, duplicate this kind of framework for future runs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you could say something like, add this in as a template within the skill that I have to create this, and make sure that it always outputs in this format. So that's usually what AI systems really like, is you giving it a specific, what does success look like, so it can know what to work towards.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good question. It's not the most straightforward thing because sometimes it's like, what is good, what is not good? And an AI system doesn't know how to answer that by itself. It always needs a reference. So whenever we provide it, we notice that we find that it can actually make better decisions based on what we say is the line that we want to draw there.
Yeah. And when you're building a skill, do you ever run into usage issues? Because when I tried to run this one today, it did a bunch of tests with and without the skill, did all this within Notion. We have our CRM in Notion.
Mhm.
And it used up a lot of usage just by creating the skill for the first run, and then iterating on it uses even more usage trying to modify it, and then have it run the tests again, and then I was out of usage for the day.
Yeah, that could be two things. One, skills are usually pretty long files. What happens is that gets like re-added into the context every time you kind of load it. Um, Another thing too is that through Notion, you're using this thing called an MCP connector. And sometimes those connectors actually output so much data, because what you look at in Notion is like maybe like a really nicely formatted page, but under the hood that has like all sorts of tags, slashes, weird characters that
Yeah.
add to that token. And so sometimes it just gets stuck on that loop calling things within Notion, and you don't really see it, but it's like pulling so much data and filling the context that's kind of draining things. So before I would do something like that, I would kind of ask it to define the process that it should go. And usually with Notion, to avoid kind of using so much usage, I copy the link to the Notion page that I want to reference to say, look in this page specifically, and then do this. So it doesn't waste time searching for the page, trying to find it, understanding where it is, and maybe even finding the wrong page and then creating a skill for a wrong Notion database.
Okay.
That's really cool that you guys are using Notion for your CRM though. How long have you guys been doing that?
We've had it since October. We just use like a pre-built template from someone online,
Yeah.
and we've been just populating it manually. But now that Claude is in the picture, why not have it automatically do it for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. You basically just did what you did that before us. Actually, we started doing it maybe in February. We switched out of into Notion, so ahead of the curve.
Yeah, we're still a new company, so we have that flexibility of we don't have any other CRM, so it's time to build a CRM. Let's do it our way
Yeah,
from the start instead of using like a HubSpot or something and then get to learn the whole system because that's a pain. Might as well just build it for exactly what we need. We don't need all these fancy little things. We just need to know when we got to contact them again. And that was Notion was the easiest way to do that.
yeah, nice. Yeah, that's super cool to see that other people are doing that too, and hopefully you're able to pull some things out of the presentation today of how you can keep iterating on top of that.
Oh yeah, big time.
Nice. Cool. I think today was made for you, Jake.
Jennifer, since it's your very first call, I'm going to call upon you. We always ask for some AI wins, so things that people and members of the community are doing, building for their businesses. And I was just curious if in the last week or so you've had an AI win where you used AI to do something for your business, if you wanted to share.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Okay, there we go. Yes, so we I would just want to give a bit of background here. So we're a hardscaping company doing design and build installs. So my background is actually in advertising and marketing. So that's how I'm using a lot of AI. So the main thing that I've been using it for this week is creating blog posts on our website. So using AI to help me, well, first actually finding out questions that people in our industry are asking, and then using AI to come up with content for that, and then putting it on our blog posts. So that's really what I've been doing with it. And then we actually do use a program called LMN. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But it's basically like it's a software program specifically for landscapers and hardscapers. So within that program, it has, like, we do all our estimates and our invoicing, our CRM, like everything, like crew tracking, everything's all in that system. So I don't know if we will like really get into using AI for any of that because that's kind of all centralized for us. But I do use AI as well for SOPs. So there's also another, I'm trying to think of the name of it right now. I think it's called Leanscaper, if I remember correctly. So again, it's for like the hardscape landscape industry, and basically you can go on and use their AI to help generate SOPs for you, anything you can think of. So like goals, standard practices, like checklists, pre-qualifying, sales pitches, anything basically that you want. And it's very tailored towards our industry. So yeah.
So it sounds like, yeah, attracting new opportunity and organizing so that your team can run certain things without you.
Yes.
Yeah, we're in the process of building SOPs as well. It's so that like it's not bound to people. Like the business is just bound to its systems, and anyone can kill it. So that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all about like the 4 pillars of successful business, right? Being like marketing, sales revenue, people, and the actual, install of the quality of the work.
Within that work, with the SOPs and the marketing and the blog post writing, is there a specific win, like one moment where you were like, hell yeah, nailed it?
I don't know if there was like one where I think overall, I'm just seeing the benefit, particularly of these like blog posts for SEO purposes, because we are a very new company. Like we've been doing this for many years. We were actually down in Florida and then came back to Windsor. So we were doing it down in Florida, but we're originally from Windsor, so we came back here. So we're new to this market in terms of just getting our name out there. So I do find like since I started doing the blog posts, it's like I'm actually already starting to see us ranking in Google, like my business profile and stuff. So it's I guess that would be a win, you could say. I mean, it's happening very quickly because we really just started the company end of February, early March.
Yeah, the win is that speed. Like you had the strategy, but the means of which to get to where it's taking you is that's awesome to hear. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
And thank you for showing up in the twilight hour of the call. That's dedication.
No, I apologize. I was actually working on an estimate and I kind of got stuck on something, so I had to finish that off. And I was like, oh no, I've missed like almost 3/4 of this call now.
No, we're glad you're here, and that's definitely a priority. So you made the
Yeah.
right call. No, thank you for sharing that. That's for me, John. This is your meeting, but for me, that's everything I got.
Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions? Cool. Well, you guys always feel free to interact with the school posts, and we'll always reply to them. You can reach out, book directly a meeting with us on our website, it's top right on the nav bar. If you want to book a call, we can discuss more. But yeah, that's all from us as well. Thank you guys for taking the time on your Tuesday night. Hope tonight was helpful, and yeah, we'll post it, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.